The new Michael Jackson biopic just came out. It is already one of the most controversial movies of the entire decade. And this is only the start of the opening weekend. The Rotten Tomatoes critics score is a 38% at the time of this recording. It was as low as 27% at one point. And honestly, I'm not that surprised by this kind of reaction, because if you pay attention to pretty much anything on the internet, there's a few reasons why we're here right now. In terms of addressing the movie critics specifically, this is kind of like a Bohemian Rhapsody type of film. And Bohemian Rhapsody was a movie that a lot of the general public really enjoyed. They had a great time watching it. They thought it was pretty good. But there are a lot of critics that say Bohemian Rhapsody is like the worst kind of movie you could possibly make these days. They treat it in the same vein of like superhero movies. They just feel like that type of music biopic is a cancer to the filmmaking industry. And when it comes to this movie in particular, you have to address the elephant in the room that Michael Jackson was involved in some sort of scandal. And when it comes to discussing your opinion on that matter, I mean, it's the closest thing I've seen to picking a political party. The group of MJ defenders are so convinced that the other side is wrong, and the other side is just as convinced that he was guilty the entire time. And I've done a lot of research into the case, and when it comes down to my opinion on that entire matter, I agree with you. So be sure to subscribe, because me and you are always going to be on the same page. But my main point here is that a lot of people already made up their mind about this movie before they even watched it. And if there's any group of people that I know that tend to make up their minds before they experience something, it's definitely movie critics. But I got the chance to watch this a few nights ago. I was definitely very skeptical going into it, not even necessarily because of the bad word of mouth, but more so that the production of this movie has been an absolute nightmare. Because for those of you that don't know, the movie Michael that is playing in theaters right now that you could go buy a ticket for is not the movie the filmmakers intended to make. It is the first half of the Michael Jackson story that they tried to tell, and they turned that first half into a movie. To sum everything up, Lionsgate basically purchased the rights from the Michael Jackson estate to make a Michael Jackson biopic. So they hire a pretty good director, Antoine Fuqua. He's best known for Training Day. So they go out and shoot this entire film. It's pretty much a project encompassing almost all of Michael Jackson's life. The entire thing starts with his rise within the Jackson 5, which is the same beginning of the film we currently have. But then there was a third act, which reports say was somewhere between 45 minutes to an hour, which revolved pretty heavily around the court cases that Michael was involved in. What those court cases were about, I can't really talk about because I'll be demonetized on YouTube, but that was a part of the movie. So they shot that. They, I think, pretty much finished editing this whole thing. It was probably like a 3.5 hour movie, or at least a rough cut of that movie. And the insiders kind of reported that the studio was very happy with the movie. They thought it was a really just crowd pleasing kind of biopic that touched on a lot of things about Michael Jackson's life. Like, sure, it had the support of the Michael Jackson estate, but it still at least acknowledged a lot of these allegations and that part of his life. And they were really excited to put that movie out until they got a call from the Michael Jackson estate. And I don't know how the conversation exactly went down, because I wasn't in the room when this conversation took place. But apparently it went down where someone from Michael Jackson's estate said, hey, by the way, this whole part of the third act of the movie that is about the entire court case, yeah, we're legally not allowed to show that, because what happened was when Michael Jackson made this settlement years ago with this family, part of the deal was, hey, if there's ever some sort of fictional retelling of this series of events, we don't want our family involved at all. You can't name us, you can't really mention it. And that agreement was made a few decades ago. And the estate knew about it, but they literally forgot to tell the filmmakers about it. So they made this entire last act of the movie that was pretty much worthless now. And if anything, maybe that makes the estate happy. Maybe they're like, oh, well, now we have to put out this Michael Jackson movie that only shows his rise of fame, where it doesn't really touch on the allegations. I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm not accusing them of anything. I am on the record of saying they did not intentionally do that, but it is pretty damn wild that they made this entire movie. They knew what the plan of the movie was. This studio spends so much money to make this entire last hour to 45 minutes of the film, and then the estate was like, oh yeah, you guys aren't really allowed to use that. And for those of you that don't know much about making movies, let me break it down for you. When you shoot an entire third act of a film, it is very expensive. So the fact that they couldn't use any of it is a huge waste of time and money. Like, there's no getting around that is a complete fuck up by this estate of people. So Lionsgate and Antoine Fuqua get put in this really hard corner of like, what the hell are we supposed to do now? And the amount of money it would take to reshoot that entire thing and put into this movie movie. I mean, you're talking about tens of millions of more dollars. Like, it is a ton of money. And regardless of what you think about this decision, they decided to be like, you know what? We're going to take all the footage we are legally allowed to use. We're going to probably pad it out a little bit. You know, like, I'm sure this movie is just around 2 hours. I'm sure this segment of the original film really was like an hour and 45 minutes. So they decided to put out that movie, which starts at the beginning of his life and ends around 1988. And if this movie does good at the box office, they will make a sequel that uses some of the footage they shot from that third act that didn't revolve around the court case and somehow still acknowledge the allegations and pad out a different kind of third act that they will turn into like some sort of sequel to finish telling the story of Michael Jackson. And throughout this version of the film, you could definitely tell there are little things being set up that they intend to pay off in a sequel to this movie. And I have to admit, I have a lot of sympathy for Antoine Fuqua and the rest of the filmmaking team here. This is a shitty situation to be in. It is not their fault at all. Because in my time of being a film fan, I have heard of some pretty nightmarish film scenarios. This is up there for like top 3 I've heard in a very long time. It's definitely not as bad as Alec Baldwin killing somebody on set. I think that's the cream of the crop. And luckily nothing like that happened for this movie, but financially this is an absolute disaster. So with all that being said, I got the chance to see Michael, the real film that is in theaters right now. And with all of the terrible word of mouth and the surrounding drama of the film, I really thought this was going to be like my worst rated movie on Letterboxd this year. I wanted it to be good, but I just had such little faith that anybody would be able to pull off anything good out of this entire situation. But after watching it and sitting on it, I gotta be fully honest, and I'm pretty surprised I'm saying it. I didn't think it was that bad. I think this is an okay, very safe music biopic that I actually enjoyed. There are definitely problems with it. I don't think I would go as far to say this is a really good movie. And I do think there are a lot of people that no matter how this movie was going to turn out, they were going to hate it. Like if you think Michael Jackson was guilty for sure, there's no world where a movie like this is going to change your mind. And people have the right to feel that way for sure. Just like on the flip side, there were a lot of people that just wanted to see a recreation of Michael Jackson's best hits. And this is that movie for them. And when it comes to the critic scores and bashing of this movie, there are a lot of critics on Rotten Tomatoes that are approved that just kind of go along with the consensus of what all the other critics are saying. They have no thought of their own whatsoever. But that is a different video for a different day. And I think some people make some good points. Like, yeah, this definitely feels like a part 1 for sure. But my thing with these critics is let's be consistent. When Across the Spider-Verse came out a few years ago, my biggest complaint of the movie was like, yeah, like there's parts of it that's good, but I thought Into the Spider-Verse was better. Across the Spider-Verse very much felt like a part 1 to a negative degree. It didn't feel like it stood on its own as its own story. And I got so much shit for that. And I understand it's a part 1. I just think some part 1s feel like their own contained thing. And I think that's a better movie than this one, but those filmmakers intentionally cut out the last act of their movie and turned it into its own sequel that still hasn't come out. So my thing is, if that's gonna be your biggest complaint, complain about it in every part 1 movie. There are also some people that get paid to do this that are complaining that there are too many musical sequences in the Michael Jackson movie. It's like, buddy, I don't know what you thought you were about to watch, but you are watching a Michael Jackson movie. That's like saying a Jurassic Park movie is bad because there are too many dinosaurs. Do you really think a Michael Jackson fan is gonna buy a ticket and say, man, like I really wanted to like that movie, but there were just too many Michael Jackson songs? It's okay if you don't like this movie, but let's think of a more reasonable complaint here. It drives me insane because I'm defending an okay movie that I just happen to like. This movie serves the main purpose it is trying to serve. And that's the thing. The main complaint that people have that I do agree with is that this is a very by the numbers, safe music biopic. And if you haven't seen this yet and you're on the fence because the critics' reviews are low, you should ask yourself this question. Did I like Bohemian Rhapsody? If you are a regular person that just likes movies and you enjoyed that, then the answer should be yes. You are going to like the Michael Jackson movie. My mom and her boyfriend are big music people. I could easily recommend this to them. I thought Bohemian Rhapsody was fine. I didn't hate it as much as a lot of other people. I thought it was decently made. I just had a problem with Queen interfering with the real life story where Freddie Mercury is the one that's dead and the living members of Queen made it seem like that the reason there was drama within the group is that Freddie Mercury wanted to do his solo album without them, even though there were members of Queen that did solo albums before Freddie Mercury, but they didn't acknowledge that in the movie. That's the kind of biopic stuff I can't stand. And And the thing is, I don't know enough about Michael Jackson to know how many of those kinds of inconsistencies are within this movie. And maybe the more that comes out about that, I'll like this movie even less. But as it is, as a movie of what it's trying to accomplish, I think it's decent. To me, these music biopics are like the Call of Duty of movies. They are doing the same exact thing every single time, but for the right audience, they get it right. I play Call of Duty with my friends every once in a while. We know it's not the best game ever, but it's good enough. You know, it delivers on what we need it to do. And I think these music biopics like Bohemian Rhapsody and Michael are doing that kind of service. And I understand why people that are super into movies do not like that. But I also understand why people that just want to go see a fun movie love this kind of thing. It is also impossible to argue that this movie is very intentional on how it portrays Michael Jackson. And like I said, if you're somebody that believes he is guilty, you are going to feel some sort of way if you decide to watch this movie. And with Michael Jackson being such like a prolific, controversial figure, it doesn't feel like the film does his story enough justice. But again, I'm at least aware of why we aren't seeing that in this movie, because the director tried. But even as hard as he tried, if we never get that second movie, like it's going to be hard to justify like, man, they made a Michael Jackson movie without even acknowledging all the scandals that happened later on. It's like if you made an O.J. Simpson movie that was only about his NFL career, like it'd be crazy. It's just not a great look. And I know his family is behind this entire production, and they're not going to want to hand the rights off to somebody that just wants to make a Michael Jackson court case movie. But I just feel like there's still a lot of Michael Jackson's story to tell. Even regardless of the court cases, there's still a lot that happens later on in his life that I think is important to see on screen. And to me, the closest comparison I could think of when it comes to Michael is actually Star Wars The Force Awakens. And you gotta stick with me for this real quick, because for me, I grew up a Star Wars fan, right? I was so excited to see what Star Wars 7 would be, because as a kid, I was like, holy shit, like what if they make a Star Wars 7 one day? And when it came out, I had a great time. It was a very safe Star Wars movie, but it was at least well made. It had a base of really good, solid new characters that I was really invested in. And there was like this promise of like, hey, we're building out this world. Thank you for coming to see episode 7. And we're building to something grand and great in episodes 8 and 9. And if you watched episodes 8 and 9, you know that did not go according to plan. And now in 2026, I like The Force Awakens a lot less, because when I watch it now, it's like I know what came after. In a lot of ways, it's like the reverse of Dune Part 1, where I really enjoyed Dune 1 when I saw it in theaters. I thought it was really great. And then I rewatched it at home right before Dune Part 2, and I still really liked it, but I was like, like it's good, but I don't love it as much as everybody else does. And then I saw Dune Part 2 multiple times. I adored Dune Part 2. It's arguably the best movie of the entire decade. And Dune Part 2 is so good that when you go back to Dune Part 1, you're like, oh my God, like this movie's great. And that's the problem with reviewing franchise movies like that, or movies that are built in a trilogy. Like, because no matter what anybody says, how a sequel does definitely affects your relationship with the previous film. And I'm not trying to say that Michael is as good as Dune. It's not even fucking close. But what I am saying is that a lot of these complaints about Michael could become completely irrelevant whenever this second movie comes out, if it acknowledges all these things that people are complaining aren't acknowledged in this current Part 1 movie. And clearly they're not going to paint him in the worst light. They're not going to act like he was guilty in that sequel. I think if that's what you want, you're still going to be pissed off. But I do think Fuqua intended to show that side of it and at least explore it. And I think for them to show as much as they are legally allowed to is important. And I want Antoine Fuqua to finish this story. He's a good filmmaker and he deserves to finish it. But those are all like the major complaints that people are addressing. So now I want to talk about the major positive that everyone agrees on. And that is the fact that Jafar Jackson, Michael Jackson's nephew, is absolutely exceptional in his portrayal. Because when they first announced this movie, like people had talked about for years that it was inevitable. We were always going to get a Michael Jackson movie. But the question was always, who the hell do you cast as Michael Jackson? It's like a borderline impossible task. And obviously when they announced it was going to be Jafar, like there was no confirmation that this was going to work out. Like, yes, he is his nephew, but if you look on his letterbox, he has nothing. This is his first major role. Apparently he's going to play Tiger Woods in a Tiger Woods biopic. After seeing this, I'm actually excited to see what he does, because I think he's an exceptional talent. Because look, it's one thing to nail the voice, because Michael Jackson does have such a distinct voice, but there are a lot of people that could probably pull off an impersonation of that. But when it comes to portraying the physicality of Michael Jackson, I mean, this has got to be the closest we have gotten to seeing seeing the real life performer being recreated on stage. I know Rami Malek won the Oscar, but even when you're watching Bohemian Rhapsody, at least for me, I do think he is good in that movie, but there's still this feeling of I'm watching Rami Malek play Freddie Mercury, even if he is really good at it. In this, it feels like you are truly watching Michael Jackson, and I don't think he's getting enough credit for it. He is getting praised for sure, but this is like a top tier performance in my book. I think a lot of the critics are undermining the performance a little bit since he is his nephew, but if Timothée Chalamet, Austin Butler, and Rami Malek can all get Oscar nominations, and Rami Malek's case, he won, I mean, I don't see a world where Jafar is any less deserving than any of those guys. I'd put him up there as arguably the best. Now, the details of that, though, we could debate, because I know Timothy and Austin, they kind of did their own musical performances within those movies, whereas Jafar and Rami, they kind of blended the vocals of the real performers to their singing. But like I said, Rami Malek won an Oscar, and it is easy to praise Jafar now because we've all seen the movie. There's no one complaining about his performance, but I don't think we are thinking about how big of a swing and miss this could have been. This guy has not been a performer in any major sort of media, and the fact that he is this good, if he fucked this up, this would be an all-time flop of a failure. I don't even know if that grammatically makes sense, but that's how big of a fuck up this would have been. He absolutely carries this movie, and he is the reason I enjoyed it as much as I did. I was blown away with his performance. And I think because of that, I think a lot of the music performances here are actually really good. You would expect a lot of these songs to be played in some sort of music scene, you knew the Thriller music video was going to be a part of the movie, and you expect other songs to be played in a montage of some sort, and this movie delivers on that for sure. It's not doing anything unexpected. There's not a musical sequence here where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe they used this song in this context. But I think all of them get delivered on. If I also agree, though, that the end of the movie is kind of just 2 or 3 songs, and then the movie just ends. It definitely felt like there was some padding out there. I wish there was something else to kind of tie up the story for the part 1, but I still think overall a lot of those sequences were well done. Even though I didn't love a lot of the stadium CGI that was used, I think in terms of the actual filming of the performances, it was pretty good. I also really liked Coleman Domingo's performance, who plays Michael Jackson's father. But I mean, come on, he's Coleman Domingo. He has quickly become one of my favorite actors in Hollywood, like he has for most people. But he strikes the perfect balance of he's scary when he's that abusive father figure, but when he has to pull off an expression in his face so that he is the butt of the joke for the audience, he delivers on that too. And that's a really hard balance to nail, but I think he does it. And the strongest emotions I felt in scenes within this movie were all related to scenes that involved Coleman Domingo. And that's when you know you have that it factor as an actor. When it comes to everything else, though, I think a lot of the movie is just fine. The cinematography is decent enough. The writing is pretty basic, even though there are some good lines. There's this joke where Michael Jackson is trying to think of some inspiration for a song, and he makes a joke about Prince that I actually thought was really funny, really well delivered, got a big chuckle out of me, which doesn't always happen with movies like this. I don't think it's even close to being deserving of an Oscar nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay, but I also don't think it's nearly as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. And look, at the end of the day, this is a decent 5 out of 10 movie that I'm gonna personally give a 6 out of 10. I enjoyed my time with it. I think if you are interested in watching a Michael Jackson movie, this is gonna deliver for you. You're gonna have a good time. Regardless of the critic scores, I think this is gonna be a major box office hit. It seems like people that wanted to watch this movie are loving this movie. Let me know if you agree with most of the critics or the fans in the comment section down below. I love talking about movies like this that are so divisive. And this is Chase. Thank you so much for watching as always. Like I said, I agree with you. So be sure to subscribe if you really enjoyed this video. I got a lot more movie content coming. And if you do, thank you so much. And I hope you have an awesome day.